Congress pitches the idea of bailing in Social Security. Volcanoes are rumbling in Central America and Japan. And Turkey accuses the U.S. of harboring the man they say is responsible for last weekend's failed coup. This is SkyWatchTV for Thursday, July 27th, 2016. I'm Derek Gilbert. First, the Planned Parenthood undercover filmmakers have been cleared of all charges. You remember last summer, anti-abortion activists David Dalladin and Sandra Merritt released videos showing Planned Parenthood employees appearing to negotiate the sale of aborted fetal body parts. And the sale of body parts is a felony, even those taken from the unborn. However, instead of charging Planned Parenthood or its employees, a Harris County, Texas grand jury indicted Dalladin and Merritt. Well, the misdemeanor charges were dismissed last week, and charges of tampering with government records, which is a felony, were dismissed on Tuesday. Prosecutors allege that Dalladin and Merritt used fake driver's licenses while dealing with Planned Parenthood. A conviction could have led to up to 20 years in prison. The Japanese man who admitted to hacking 19 people to death at a care facility last week had been locked up in February for observation. He had tried to pass a letter to the Speaker of the lower house of Parliament in Japan detailing his plan to kill 470 disabled people at a pair of care facilities by breaking into them in the middle of the night. He was released when it was determined he was no longer a danger to anyone. He was fired from the care facility where he committed the crimes he's confessed to for the tattoos that you see here. Those are normally associated with Japanese criminal gangs. And then after his knife attack, posted this selfie to Twitter, and before, of course, turning himself into police. This is a bizarre election cycle in American politics, and it's been especially bizarre the last couple of weeks. Of course, last week there was a sight of Senator Ted Cruz publicly destroying his political future by speaking at the Republican convention and not endorsing the party's candidate for president. I mean, think what you will about Donald Trump, but Senator Cruz had an opportunity to take the stand and appear to be the bigger man. And like Ronald Reagan at the 1976 convention, where he lost the nomination to Gerald Ford, endorsed Ford, who lost to Jimmy Carter, of course, but that set up Ronald Reagan for his 1980 presidential victory. Senator Cruz is already fundraising for his 2020 presidential campaign, but based on the reaction from some of the people who invested in this campaign, it doesn't look like he's going to get any traction. Anyway, this week, we had the bizarre sight of the WikiLeaks release, 20,000 emails hacked from the Democratic National Committee's servers, which cost Democratic Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz her job, resigning over the weekend. The emails made it clear that the party, from Wasserman Schultz on down, was trying to sabotage Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign. The committee, or the party, also colluding with members of the press in order to spin the political narrative, especially MSNBC, Politico, and the Washington Post. Well, Hillary's campaign and now President Obama have publicly pointed fingers at Russian intelligence as the source of these emails, essentially accusing the Kremlin of campaigning for Donald Trump. Now, first of all, the hypocrisy here is breathtaking. The American government has been meddling in the internal affairs of other nations for more than a century, most recently and relevantly in the Orange Revolution in Ukraine, the Rose Revolution in Georgia, that's 2003, 2004, and both of those countries significantly on Russia's borders. Both of those revolutions heavily financed by NGOs, non-government organizations, that receive money from the U.S. State Department. The U.S. was also involved in backing the so-called Jeans Revolution in Belarus. That was quashed in 2006. The U.S. and NATO also behind the uprising in 2014 in Ukraine that pushed out pro-Russian President Viktor Yanukovych. Even though the anti-Russian elements that protested and got Yanukovych, basically ran him out of the country, were very heavily infiltrated by pretty obvious neo-Nazis. Now, please understand, I'm not saying that Russia or Vladimir Putin are the good guys in all of this. This is just geopolitical hardball at the major league level. par for the course. But secondly here, even if Russia is responsible, and we'll come to that in just a moment, they didn't write those emails. I mean, if they could prove that these emails were fabricated to make Democrats look bad, Debbie Wasserman Schultz would still be the chair of the Democratic National Committee instead of the honorary chair of Hillary's election campaign. But here's the kicker. According to security experts, while the Russians probably did hack into the DNC server, it's probable that others did also. And unless the DNC can show that it was, in fact, Russian intelligence that downloaded those 20,000 emails and sent them to WikiLeaks, which WikiLeaks denies, by the way, then the Democratic Party and the President of the United States are making accusations without proof, essentially accusing Russia of trying to effect regime change in the United States. And it's baseless accusations like that that can start countries shooting at each other. Here's something else to think about. Do you think for a moment, if in fact the Russian intelligence got into the DNC servers, which were protected by an outside cybersecurity consultant, do you think that they didn't get into Hillary's private, unsecured email server? And if so, what might they have downloaded, and what could they be holding right now? And wouldn't that make Hillary Clinton the most compromised, possibly, the most compromised presidential candidate in American history? The mind reels at the lack of cognitive dissonance among progressive voters. Now, would Russia prefer Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton? Well, yeah, probably. I mean, given Hillary's track record as Secretary of State, supporting the use of America's military for regime change in Libya, and how's that working out for you? And Syria, and also pushing for more direct intervention in Ukraine. Offering direct military aid to a country that wants to drag NATO into a war with Russia is irresponsible and borderline insane. This is why, by the way, alleged Republican neocons have publicly announced that they're quitting the party and will support Hillary Clinton for president. You see, they're not really switching sides. There's a shadow war party in Washington, D.C. that has basically controlled the White House for about the last 25, 26 years. And it appears that they're upset and afraid that they might lose control over the White House if one of these candidates wins. Well, another guy who never lets a good crisis go to waste, Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the government there approved a step to drop a new constitution in the wake of that failed coup last weekend. President Erdogan has wanted to do this for some time now to expand the power of the presidency within Turkey's government system. And a newspaper in Turkey that's known to be loyal to President Erdogan has accused the former commander of NATO forces in Afghanistan, retired U.S. General Joseph Campbell, of organizing the coup. Now, again, this paper is pretty much an outlet for President Erdogan, and it accused General Campbell of using a CIA-backed bank to funnel more than $2 billion to people in the Turkish military behind the attempted coup last weekend. Turkey's foreign minister said Monday that their nation's relationship with the United States could suffer if American officials don't turn over the cleric Fethullah Gulen, who they blame for instigating the coup. And Washington says Turkey will need to provide solid evidence that Gulen is connected to the coup before any thoughts of extradition will be considered. But a new poll in Turkey shows that about 2/3 of the people there believe that Gulen was responsible for the coup. And the Erdogan government is using this as political cover to crack down on Gulen's supporters in Turkey. More than 60,000 soldiers, policemen, judges, and civil servants have been arrested, suspended, or put under investigation since the coup last weekend. Now, Gulen has been living in Pennsylvania since 1999 under self-imposed exile, says the coup may have been planned by Erdogan to do exactly what Erdogan is doing right now. Who knows? In other news, 45 people died in a double car bombing in northern Syria. The attack took place early Wednesday afternoon in the Kurdish city of Qamishli, that's near the Turkish border. ISIS has claimed responsibility for that attack. The White House plans to expand its Central American refugee program. Department of Homeland Security and the State Department are moving to deal with the increase in unaccompanied minors crossing the border from Mexico into Texas. Under these new rules, parents of a qualified child will be eligible to apply for refugee status, along with older brothers and sisters. No estimate as to how many new refugees this might bring in, but based on past history, that could be substantial. And while we're busy watching this circus that is American politics, Congress is quietly drafting legislation to bail in Social Security. 2 weeks ago, Congress introduced a bill called the Save Up Accounts Act. This is our government acronym of the day. Save Up Accounts. Save Up stands for Secure, Accessible, Valuable, Efficient, Universal Pensions Accounts Act. Just remember, whenever you want to know what proposed legislation actually does, read the title and assume that it does exactly the opposite. Save Up would mandate certain employers and businesses, including many small businesses, would have to start contributing to a brand new national retirement fund. It would amount to a 2% wage tax on employers. Now consider employers already pay a 6.2% tax on Social Security, so this amounts to about a 1/3 increase in that particular tax. Typical government, Social Security is almost broke, it's not working, so let's make it bigger. And sadly, this insanity is not an isolated case. The Senate recently introduced a similar bill. It would create what's called an American savings account, just another national retirement fund managed by the government. The bottom line is that Social Security is running out of money. A recent government study showed that Social Security would be totally busted by about 2034. So don't plan on Social Security to plan your retirement, to fund your retirement. These moves in Congress, basically just a way to draw more money in that they would then siphon off to Social Security to keep it afloat long enough for whoever votes on the bill to retire with a pension plan that you and I could only dream about. And just in case you and I get crazy ideas of actually becoming self-sufficient and weaning ourselves off of government support, Financial Times, which is a publication, a business publication that basically pushes the agenda of Wall Street and the City of London, is calling for central banks to embrace e-currency like Bitcoin. The advantage of Bitcoin now is that it is basically untraceable and untouchable by government agencies, which is why they hate it. But if government-controlled central banks introduce a blockchain-based e-currency and then compel us to use it by withdrawing physical cash, and remember, if you've watched this program for any length of time, you know that we're already hearing those calls to eliminate cash, starting with the large bills, $100 notes, 500 euro notes, because the only ones who use those are tax cheats, terrorists, and drug runners. Well, if they manage to get this passed, they've drawn all of us into the banking system because some official entity will need to keep track of all of these digital dollars and cents. And then banks can charge whatever interest rate they want. We'd have no way out. Negative interest? You bet. Charge us for the privilege of holding our money. Plus all of our transactions would be tracked. And at some point, looking at this from a prophetic perspective, no one without a mark in the hand or forehead would be able to buy or sell. A couple of earth changes to report on. A volcano in southwestern Japan erupted Tuesday, sending ash about 3 miles up into the atmosphere. The volcano is located about 30 miles from the nuclear plant in the city of Sendai, which was reactivated last year. It had been shut down after the Fukushima disaster. And geologists from the UK say that a pool of magma is building about 3.5 miles below the city of San Salvador. That's in the capital city of El Salvador in Central America. The last eruption of the Ilopango caldera was about 1,500 years ago and apparently destroyed everything within 60 miles, including the native Mayan population. And speaking of the Mayans, archaeologists have found a water tunnel beneath the Mayan Temple of the Inscriptions in southern Mexico. This may have been used to carry the body of the renowned Mayan ruler Tikal the Great to his eternal reward. The temple was built between 683 and 702 AD. Tikal died in 683. This step pyramid was rediscovered about 200 years ago, but the tomb of Pakal was only found in the 1950s. And this terminal water slide, just recently discovered, and it was found that this temple was built on top of a natural spring, which it's believed was used to carry his body to the underworld. Now, I find this interesting because of recent research I've been doing into the oldest pyramid in the world, the oldest ziggurat and the largest found in Mesopotamia, which was at the oldest city in the world, Eridu. This temple devoted to the god Enki, the god of the Abzu, also built over a water chamber, by the way, called the Abzu, which is the word from which we get the word abyss. So this old temple, built 6,000 years before the temple in Central America, sharing a similar feature, being built over an underground water chamber. Same reason? Just find it interesting is all. This week on SkyWatch TV, you want to find out some alternate history. You think the Nazis lost World War II? Steve Quayle says no. His new book, Empire Beneath the Ice, talks about the secret Nazi base at Antarctica and Operation High Jump, the military operation to wipe it out. That will air 3 times today, twice coast to coast. The Cornerstone Network, coast to coast at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. World Harvest Television this evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. That follows the Jim Baker Show. And then tonight in Kalamazoo, Michigan, WLLA TV 24. And then Saturday, the Victory Television Network, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. That's in Arkansas and around Memphis. And then in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area, Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. WCLF TV. And please take advantage of our web exclusive content, these daily news updates tomorrow, every Thursday, Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck and his wife Christina Peck as they tear apart the very fabric of reality and examine it under a biblical microscope. And then on Friday, Sci Friday, every week with me and our science editor, my best friend, and my wife, Sharon K. Gilbert. And forthcoming programs like Teens Rock with Joe Artis and The Supernatural Worldview with Chris Putnam. All of those programs available at skywatchtv.com and the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku. And of course, we offer a portable version, audio-only versions of all of our programs on SkyWatch TV. The SkyWatch TV podcast, available for download at skywatchtv.com. Just look for the link in the top menu bar that says podcast. Your support is critical to us, and we truly appreciate it. We try to send a gift to thank you for your support. Every month, something different. In the month of July, Tools for the Spiritual War, 50 Things You Should Know About Satan and Demons, and Empowered by His Presence. We'll send those books to you, if you're a U.S. resident, for your donation of any amount during the month of July. For information and to donate, log on to skywatchtv.com/donate. And just a click of the mouse helps us as well. Shares the word around. Click like, click share, click subscribe at these places here. Well, subscribe would be here if you're watching YouTube. And of course, you'll find me online here, website, Twitter, Facebook, and of course, my new YouTube channel beginning tonight and on Wednesdays for the next 3 months. Interviews recorded at the Rocky Mountain International Prophecy Conference. You'll find those there. And right here, you'll find my email address for your comments, questions, and suggestions. Please send those to dgilbert@skywatchtv.com. And thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV. America isn't the same country that we grew up in, but it's hard to get back what we've forgotten we had. That's why Defender Publishing presents When Once We Were a Nation. 12 chapters, 12 authors, each one remembering when once we were a nation of strength, of rugged individualism, of dreams and opportunity, when once we were a nation of faith. From authors like Tom Horn, Chris Putnam, Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, Sheila Zielinski, and more. And when you order a copy of the new book, When Once We Were a Nation from SkyWatch TV, we'll add these books free. Dancing with the Devil, an honest look at the occult. Culture Clash, Islam's War with America. Conspiracies in the Cross, how to refute the most popular attacks on the gospel. And God Bless America by Todd Starnes of Fox News. When Once We Were a Nation from Defender Publishing, because the first step to getting it back is remembering what we had.